Our number 10 reason is perhaps the most overlooked thing in typology. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Coffee Corner. And of course, because we have fun on this channel, it's coffee and corner spelled with a K. Coffee Corner! How's your coffee? Mine is a little weak, to be honest. So, 10 reasons why the 16 personalities test gave you the wrong results. A lot of people ask, like, how do I know that my test results are even correct? People are like, I take a bunch of different 16 personalities tests and I get a bunch of different answers and I don't know what to do. But there are several reasons why these tests could be giving you an incorrect answer. Some of these reasons might seem obvious, some might be freaking shocking, and some might hurt a little bit, which is why we're at the coffee corner. I wanted to put you in a relaxing environment. You know, and speaking of tests, people often ask me, Frank, what test should I even take? Well, very conveniently, this brings us to the sponsored segment of our video brought to you by Cloverleaf. Cloverleaf has a 16 types assessment that, in my opinion, is one of the best you'll find on the interwebs. It's a totally free test, because I know you guys don't want to pay no money for that. And you can take it right now. The link is in the description. When you sign up, you'll get personalized insights into your personality and coaching tips sent straight to your email inbox, as opposed to like your physical mailing address. What I like about this test, as opposed to some of the other tests out there, is that the questions are oftentimes a bit different than what you normally see, and the answers they have are like, choose this or that. It's not this sliding scale thing, which I believe gives you inaccurate answers. Hey, and if you want to take it a step further with your work team, you can get a 14-day free trial where you all can connect and learn about each other and how your personalities interact. It's all about working better together, baby. Take Cloverleaf's 16 types assessment now. The link is down below. I highly recommend it as an excellent start on your personality type journey. That brings us to the end of the sponsored segment. Now, let's get to those 10 things, those 10 reasons why the tests you're taking online might be giving you the wrong answers, the wrong results, the wrong type. This first thing, I bet, has happened to a lot of us watching. It is taking a 16 personalities test with like your friends looking over your shoulder. Or perhaps an even more common scenario, taking it in a classroom, or even more common, at work. In a situation where you are then expected to share your personality type with everyone once you've gotten your results. This really ups the chances that you are gonna get an inaccurate type at the end, because it puts pressure on you. You're not gonna answer honestly. You're gonna have maybe pressure to fit in with everyone else. Instead of thinking, what do I actually think? How would I actually respond to these questions? It's more like, how's everyone else gonna respond and how can I fit into that? Or maybe it gives you the pressure to show off. Like maybe you want all your friends to think you're really smart, so you'll just answer all the test questions as though you're a thinker. Or it could give you the pressure to hide. You don't wanna answer honestly because you don't want people to really know what's going on. You gotta take the test by yourself and answer totally honestly. Not thinking about, am I gonna show this to someone else one day? Reason number 2, you take a bunch of different tests and you get a bunch of different results. Now, I know a lot of you are sweating right now. You're like, oh my gosh, this is totally me. Or even if you take a bunch of tests and you bounce around between 2 or 3 different types. This is actually kind of like a symptomatic thing. What it says to me is that, well, first of all, every test is a bit different, so that can account for some of it. But what I think it really says is that you're not answering consistently between tests. You haven't really gotten to a point where you are being fully honest with yourself about how you are most of the time, averaging it out. You know, some days you might feel more emotional and some days you might feel more logical. So if you take a test on different days, you might get different results. So you gotta stop thinking about what am I like in the moment right now and think more about, like, generally 51% of the time, when the chips are down and when the stakes are high, what am I gonna go with? For example, am I gonna go with my emotions or am I gonna go with the logic? And if you're still taking a bunch of tests, there's a certain point where you know what they're asking, and you can't take the test too many times before you can subconsciously get the result you want. Tests are a great starting point. I am not here to S on the tests, but they are a place where you get in the right direction and you're like, okay, now let me learn about this. Let me get deeper into what personality types are all about so I can learn all the complexities and really figure out, did the test give me the right result? Number 3, you relate to multiple types. I mean, this is one of the difficult things about typology, right? When you're just getting into it, or even when you've been into it for a while, you can look at several different types, or maybe all 16 of the types and be like, well, dang, I kind of relate to all of them. And here's the thing, the 16 personalities, it's not like the Enneagram where you have 9 separate, totally distinct types, right? And if you are curious about the Enneagram, I made an introductory video about it. You can click the card above my head. I think that's what makes the 16 personalities the most fascinating personality system, because it has a lot of different parts that get rearranged in different ways to make different types. There is a lot in common, for example, between an INFJ and an INFP. There's a lot of overlap. They're intuitive feelers. But once you start to learn about the individual parts, the cognitive functions that make up each of those types, you should be able to point to one or the other and be like, okay, well, I sort of relate to this general thing about them, but this specific thing, this does not apply to me. To get my introductory video about that, click the card here. I explain it all in great detail so you will get it even if you know nothing about cognitive functions. If you're just reading the type profiles on various websites and you find that you relate to a lot of them, what it means is that you're still staying at this very surface, almost horoscope level of personality types, and that you need to go deeper to start to understand the complexity. Hold on to your butts, because this number 4 reason is really going to hurt a lot of you, big time. You're getting the wrong results on your personality test because you really want or really need to be a certain personality type. And look, I don't care. I'm assuming that you care and you want to get the correct type. And I think there's a problem in typology where some types are looked at as very valuable, and a lot of times these are the rare types. And if you want to see a video I did about the actual percentages of the types in the population, check out this video here in the card above my head. And I gotta warn you, you're gonna be shocked and dismayed at the rarest type. But yeah, it's like people are, they're like racist against certain types, where it's like, here are valuable types, these types are the cool types, and the rare types and the important types, and then there's all these other types that are kind of crappy and boring. So then you'll just start to answer the questions in a way that will get you to the answer that you want. People who come into types totally cold have an advantage because they don't have any of these biases. You really don't want to have your identity wrapped up in your type. The personality type describes a lot of you, a lot of what's going on in your psychology, but it shouldn't be like your main defining characteristic. You shouldn't use that in place of like a real, a real character, you know? Because the type is a tool to help you out, to describe who you already are. The type isn't some thing outside of you. It's just a label to help you out. Number 5, you let negative people tell you who you are, and then you answer that way on the test. So I don't know who it is, and maybe they're doing it intentionally, being negative to you, or maybe unintentionally. They don't mean to hurt you, but they just give you a lot of negative energy. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's friends who are kind of selfish. Maybe it's just society in general is giving you bad messages about yourself. Like maybe, for example, your family has been telling you your entire life that you are lazy and that you need to work harder. And so maybe this has translated into you putting answers on the personality tests that make you seem more like a P type, where it'll be like, oh, I'm messy. Everyone's told me I'm messy my whole life. Whereas in reality, maybe you just have people around you who are overly critical and negative. Number 6 is the flip side of that. Maybe you're around someone a lot who just has a very strong personality and it's a positive relationship, maybe a little bit too involved, but you start answering the test as though you're answering for this other person. Let's say that you are dating someone that you really like, and maybe you are naturally a thinker, but this person you're in a relationship with is a feeler, and you are just so into them and their world and you're just so taken with everything that they do that you're like, oh, I'm a feeler too. This other person uses feeling to make all their decisions, so I think that that's the best way to answer the test. And by the way, if you do this, if this reason is why you're getting an incorrect answer on your test, it's very likely that you are a J type, that you have FE or TE as your primary decision-making function, because those types are very much about kind of focusing on other people. The P type's much less likely to fall into that particular trap, because they know who they are. Number 7, this is like a serious one. Let's get a little serious, guys. It's the worst way to get into a serious segment. But if you are struggling with your mental health, you're not gonna answer a personality test very accurately. Mental health issues cloud our perception of who we are. It's like your entire mind revolves around those issues. So for example, if you are depressed, you might identify more with feelings because you've got this heavy emotional state on you all the time. Or if you're anxious, maybe you end up identifying with more J traits because you are trying to exert control over everything around you. Number 8, you have social anxiety, or you're shy, or both. Because here's the thing, even extrovert types, and just generally people who we would consider extroverts, can have social anxiety and be shy. I know it seems like a contradiction, but it is entirely possible. People who get their energy from being around people can also just be afraid of those situations because they fear the judgment. They're worried they're gonna embarrass themselves. So I think there are a lot of people, a lot of EJs and EPs who struggle with some of these issues, who are socially anxious and or shy, and they just say, yeah, I'm an introvert. And stay tuned for reason number 10, because I'm gonna kind of revisit this a bit. Number 9. Oh, this is an awkward one. You're not very self-aware. Okay, now this is not me coming down hard on anyone. We all struggle with self-awareness. It's not easy to be self-aware. But a lot of us go through a lot of our lives not really being able to look at ourselves from an objective viewpoint, because it's extremely painful to do that. Because it's like, when you look at someone else, you can tell what's good and bad about them. But if someone ever tells you, hey, here are some negative aspects about you, you might be like, this is shocking. And so the way this translates to personality types is that we are often really focused on our non-preferred functions. So if we are an NF type, maybe we're actually really focused on our sensing and thinking functions, because we struggle a bit more to do that. We have to put more awareness on those things. And maybe we feel really proud when we do the opposite of our personality type. Maybe an INTJ feels really proud when the one time of the year when they're really spontaneous and just go out and do something fun and have an adventure, and then they hold on to that one thing and they're like, yep, that's me. The other 364 days where I'm, in my room planning out the next 10 years, that's not really me. And it's too easy. I just do that all the time. What was really hard was this thing I did where I went out on vacation and I didn't plan every single day. That was tough. That's me. Because I did it. I accomplished it. Our number 10 reason is perhaps the most overlooked thing in typology. And it's probably the number 1 reason why people get the wrong result on their personality test. And no one talks about it. The reason is, you are not typical. People who fit neatly into one of the 16 stereotypes of the 16 personalities, those people are the minority. Most likely, you do not easily fit into the stereotype of one of these personalities, and the reality of you is much more messy and complex. And here's what I was mentioning a little bit earlier when I was talking about extroverts who are socially anxious. Even if you don't have social anxiety or you're shy or whatever, there are a lot of times where E-types can be quieter and I-types can be more outgoing. And this is one of the confusing things about typology that you really got to start studying, like get into the cognitive functions and understand why that happens. And there are some sensor types who have brilliant imaginations. And there are some intuitive types who are very practical. And people who are thinking types do have emotions. And people who are feeling types do have the ability to think logically, and they do it on a daily basis. J-types can be messy. And P-types can be organized. The stereotypes work sometimes, but a lot of times they don't work. They break down. Don't be in too much of a rush. Like, don't worry too much about if you have your type wrong or right now. It takes a little bit of time. Have fun exploring personality types and yourself. Okay, I keep talking about cognitive functions. You better check out this video I made about cognitive functions if you're not sure what those really are. It really opens up a lot of the personality type stuff for you. And until next time, stay cool and attractive.